There's a big cricket final tomorrow at the ICC Champions Trophy. India up against New Zealand in Dubai, two of the most consistent teams in ICC events in recent times. And tomorrow they will battle it out then in the final of the Champions Trophy. And to help us look ahead to this final, we've roped in renowned cricket commentator and former convener of selectors here in South Africa and for the national team, Hussein Manak, also SABC sport analyst and commentator. Good evening, Hussein, from us on SABC. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Good evening. Thank you, Tabiso. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Before we look ahead to the final, Hussein, let's start with the Proteas campaign. How do you look back at this semi-final exit and the campaign overall?
Yeah, I think, look, it was, I look back at it and I think there were probably a couple of things that confused me. Still, I can't find answers to. One is, why would in Lahore, where almost every team had played two, sometimes three spinners, if you look at New Zealand, in that same semi-final game, New Zealand bowled four spinners and they bowled 28 overs of spin. South Africa only picked one spinner, Keshav Maharaj, and bowled 14 overs of spin, which is exactly half of the number of overs of spin that New Zealand bowled. So that confuses me a bit. I'm not too sure whether they didn't assess or read the conditions correctly, but I don't think that would be it, because they played a triangular just before the Champions Trophy there. They've been there for a while. They know the conditions. But the team they picked and the balance of that side was almost as if they picked a team that was playing in South African conditions. So that does confuse me a bit. I thought with the batting lineup, they could have been a bit more flexible. When you're chasing a pick total like 360, I really thought perhaps maybe somebody like David Miller could have gone up at number 3, maybe number 4, and won the game up. I mean, chasing a big total like that, you were never going to win the game in the last 10 overs. And if you left it for the finishes at the end, as we saw, even though Miller got 100, there was no way you were going to win that game. So you had to win it in the first 40 overs, and the push had to be made early on. So I thought there was perhaps an error on their side where they could have pushed a few stroke makers early on to get on with it a bit earlier, particularly the left-hander, because when Rickleton got out, if Miller went in, he could have perhaps taken on their New Zealand's frontline bowler, which was Mitchell Santner. And Santner got 3 of our right-handers out, so South Africa needed a left-hander at the crease, and particularly Miller. I thought early on, if he got in early and got a 120 or 140, but early on in the innings, I think that could have set it up a lot better. But South Africa left it too late, and some of their tactical decisions do confuse me. I don't have answers for them.
Is it a matter of being stuck in their old ways, Hussein? We know South African cricket, it's always an all-seam attack. Do they need to start adapting now to the conditions?
I think, we went through a phase where, and you're right, that, South Africa tend to play our cricket very much rugby style. So it's almost that, we'll intimidate you with pace, we'll intimidate you with bounce, we'll run in, we'll hit hard lengths. And so, that doesn't work these days, especially on flat wickets. You need spin, you need guile, you need the variation of pace. They went in with 4 seamers. So you're right. I think, you got to move on, particularly play the conditions, play the opposition. And we didn't do that. So, yeah, I think, I don't know, some errors that just don't make a lot of sense to me. And I still don't have the answers to them. So we'll find out sooner or later once we start hearing a few comments. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, seems like the coach also doesn't have answers for them. But that's another conversation, Hussein. Let's look ahead to tomorrow. India will start as favorites against New Zealand, I would think so, especially because they've been playing in Dubai all their matches. They seem to have an advantage, but we know this queue is very hard to beat. How do you see it tomorrow?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, India have been in Dubai for the entire tournament. They quite settled. They've been in one hotel for the entire tournament. So, and they played on one ground. So they do have an advantage. New Zealand have come. They did play in Dubai. They played that last group game against India and they lost. Then they had to go back to Lahore and they're back again. So they've been a bit of traveling for them. So yeah, I mean, I don't think both journeys for both teams have been the same. Having said it, I think New Zealand are quite a versatile team. They play smart cricket. They very often punch above their weight, but India are definitely favourites. If you look at the balance of the two teams, I do see they're pretty much similar in that, okay, India bat till number 8. They've got a very strong batting lineup, and that allows their batters up front to come hard and play freely and really go at the bowlers quite hard up front. So, with somebody like a Jadeja batting at 8, it allows Kohli and Rohit and all those guys up front to really come out flying. Even if they lose a few wickets, they know that they've got depth in their batting lineup. They've also got they've got 3 all-rounders in their side. New Zealand also have 3 all-rounders in their side. And I think for me, that's really been the key. When I look at this tournament as a whole, I look at why are these 2 teams in the final, that's the answer, is that New Zealand have 3 frontline top-order batters who both spin as well, and they're proper all-rounders. So they both spin and they bat. And India as well have 3 proper all-rounders. 2 of them are spinning all-rounders, and one of them is Hardik Pandya, who's a seamer all-rounder. So, when you've got 3 all-rounders in your side, what it really does, it gives you a lot of depth. It gives your captain a lot of options with the ball, gives you versatility, and you just seem to have that extra 1 or 2 players in your team. And I think that's where, for me, coming back to South Africa, that's why I think South Africa have fallen short. We need to get more all-rounders in, particularly spinning all-rounders. I think we're missing a big trick when you play on the subcontinent. We cannot be going into playing in subcontinent without spinning all-rounders. It makes no sense. You look at these 2 teams, that's what they've done well. That's why India, New Zealand will always do well in these conditions, because they've got those spinning all-rounders in their side. But India are definitely favourites, I agree with you.
Especially with a player like Virat Kohli. What have you made of how he's approached his innings recently? We've seen a little bit of maturity. There was 100 that he got through, I think, right at the end there, where he paced himself perfectly. He seems to be happy to do the job for the team now, and it's no longer just about him.
I think the advantage what India have with somebody like a Kohli is that if you look at the pitch and the conditions in Dubai now, I think the advantage is going to be with the team batting first. Most likely, unless the condition changed drastically overnight and something else happens that we don't know about, chances are teams will bat first, try and post a big score, and then bowl and defend that total. There's not going to be a lot of dew, so there's not going to be a substantial advantage for team batting second. So bat first, get a big score, and then try and defend that total. But the advantage India have, even if they lose the toss and end up chasing a total, Virat Kohli is one of the best chasers of targets in the history of cricket. I mean, he knocks down totals, he bats, he chases down totals. He's a phenomenal run chaser. So he has that ability to pace an innings, to temper his innings. We saw the World Cup, the T20, where he batted beautifully, even though it was slightly slower than the required run rate. But he has the ability and experience now to pace his innings, as you said. And the experience that India have in that batting lineup is pretty phenomenal. So they certainly have that long batting lineup. But Kohli, I think, is that cog in the middle that seems to just always play that vital innings and the vital role. And guys up front like Rohit and Shubman Gill, they know they can come out of the blocks flying, because even if both of them get out, you still got Kohli, and you've got Iyer, and you've got Akshar Patel, and you've got, Rahul comes in at 6.
Yeah.
He's an opening batter. He comes in at 6. So even if they lose 3 or 4 early wickets, you've got somebody like Rahul who's a test opening batter coming in at 6. So they've got some serious depth in their batting lineup. But let's not take anything away from New Zealand. You look at the way they've played, Rachin Ravindra and
Kane Williamson also. Yeah.
Williamson is in phenomenal form, and I love Williamson. He's one of the best. For me, he's one of the players I love watching, along with guys like Kohli. But Williamson is a serious player.
You can watch more of him tomorrow, Hussein. We're going to have to leave it there for now, but always a pleasure talking to you. We'll invite you back again for another discussion of whether we need this convener of selectors to come back to South African cricket. But thank you for joining us on Sports Live. Our former convener of selectors, Hussein Manak, former player, also talking to us about the ICC Champions Trophy.